Hey guys, I just finished this render and I thought it'd be interesting to go over like the creation of it, how it came together. This video isn't going to have any technical information. This isn't about modeling or lighting or anything. It's simply about the image starting as a simple blocked out scene to the finished scene that you see here. I feel like there's so much information about, technical detail and not enough about really the creation process in general. For example, when you follow a tutorial, especially an architectural tutorial, it will simply show you how to get to the finished result. But when you're making something, you don't start, everything you place isn't perfect. It's not going to be there forever. So I thought it would just be helpful to go through the creation of this image because it certainly wasn't anything great when it started. And I'm not saying it's anything great now. I'm still learning Blender. I'm still new to rendering. I've been modeling for a couple of years now, but I haven't really been rendering anything. So I thought this would be a good image to put together to learn on, and then I ended up saving kind of landmark renders along the way. So I'll kind of go through a slideshow of how this came together and just really drive home the point that just because something isn't super interesting to begin with, it doesn't mean that you should just give up on it, because everything takes work. Every art form takes work to get to the finished result. It's not going to come effortlessly. So here's the reference image I saw online, and this is what inspired the layout. I'm not going to claim that I made the layout, and this image is clearly better than mine. The person who made this is probably a professional when it comes to architectural rendering. Except for this, I don't really understand this. It's like they didn't apply the texture right or something. I don't know. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be, and I'm wrong. But it really looks like there's some alpha mask issues or something. Anyways, yeah, this is a much more balanced image, much more professional looking image. But yeah, this is what inspired me to do my layout. I didn't try to recreate it to a T, but the layout really did inspire me, and I really just enjoyed this image. So if you're trying to learn, there's no, unless you specifically want to make your own layout, there's nothing wrong with just copying an image. That's what most people do, honestly. You'd be surprised. Most people are just copying something else they saw. But of course, put your own spin on it, put your own flair on it. Don't just try and recreate it. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with that, because if you're going into it to learn, then that's honestly one of the best ways there is to learn. So here's the very first render I did. This was after probably like 45 minutes of work, just blocking the scene out and trying to get the camera as close to possible to the reference image. I threw this little naked person in here as a way to see the scale of the scene. I was working in centimeters, but I exported out this, I think it was like 5'6" human from Make Human, just to be able to move around the scene and kind of get a better visual representation of the scale of things. Especially with things like the stairs. Like I had a lot of issues with the stairs throughout this entire image. Almost every frame I'll go to, they're probably going to change in some way. I'm not going to go over all the different sizings I had to do, just because it's going to be really redundant. But I start off with just the simple blocked out scene, this support pole here. I threw in a door from, I think it's pronounced Archimesh from Blender. It's this really cool add-on. I think it's included with Blender, so you should have it. You just have to enable it. But it's really useful. You can make doors, windows, some props and stuff. Like I actually ended up using it for the first time in this scene. Other than that, I threw in the stairs, and then I have this window. Like I forgot it was in the image. So that's how this image started. At this point, honestly, I was like, do I really want to do this? Like, it's not that interesting. I'd rather go work on some easy abstract piece that's just like all eye candy and show somebody. But I really need to learn, and I needed to kind of do something that was a bigger project. So I was like, all right, I'll just try and continue on. And immediately it's already looking better. Like I was about to give up, and then probably 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't too bad. I added a ground. I just blocked out the scene. I added in what the rest of the building will look like. Messed with the stairs. I know I said I wouldn't say that, but I think it really did lend to this better looking image. And I put in this plane of glass, which the reflectivity just kind of brings things to life a little bit. So now I kind of blocked out the furniture. Disclaimer, I did not make this couch. I did arrange it. Basically, I just had the pieces and I put them all together. I'm not interested in learning how to sculpt a couch or anything, so I didn't feel like it would be useful to sit there and learn how to do that. It was a part of some free pack. I'm sure on my ArtStation post you can see output credits for everything I used. I messed with the beam a little bit, and I kind of blocked out the whole window area, and I put where the carpet's going to be. I moved this couch over because I wanted to put like a big chair here, like how it was in the original reference image, and then I edited the table a bit, made it look more like or just less like a giant cube. Other than that, I don't think anything else changed. I started messing with the different skyboxes here. I wanted to try and mess around with the lighting, and I really wanted clouds in the sky, which ultimately I ended up just reverting back to the original. I could have added the clouds in post-processing or something, but I didn't really care enough to do that. I added in lights. I moved out the building, made it more of its final size, and I put a alpha tree line in the back, and then a model of a tree right here to help block things out a bit. I kind of decided that I wanted to go with this color scheme of like a mint green and white. I didn't want to do just pure white, but as you can see in the final image, I didn't use that. But yeah, I just thought the pure white would be kind of boring, so I was like, okay, I'll go with this cool, like nice, modern greenish color. Here's a little bit of a higher quality render, I think. I made this little table where they had books, and I put color on this pillow. Other than that, I'm sure there are some small tweaks, but nothing important. Here again, I added this chair, which again I didn't make. I threw in this dining set, which I didn't make either. Ultimately, I got rid of this set, and I just made my own because I wasn't extremely happy with this one. For some reason, the tree line got deleted. I don't know how that happened, but I obviously added it back in after this. I decided I didn't really want to go with like a dark wood. It does look more modern and classier, but I ended up going with this lighter wood here. I just thought I wanted like a brighter scene, I guess. So this is when things really change. Like up to this point, I'm just kind of working on the image on and off, and I'm not too crazy about it. I was happy with it, but I was like, this is kind of boring. But on Thanksgiving, I stopped by a friend's house, and she was working on this painting. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And she posted it on Facebook, so I threw it into GIMP and stretched it out to make it like more of a full-on perspective, because she just had like a kind of a angled shot. And I asked her, I'm like, hey, can I use this in my render? Because I knew I needed paintings and pictures for the scene, because an indoor shot with no artwork would be kind of boring, but a little bit unrealistic. Most everybody has artwork to some form in their home. And I'm like, hey, can I use this? Because I'd rather use a friend's image than something off of Google. She's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So this is really when the image changed, because this is what gave me my color scheme. And I was like, okay, I'll put her image back there. And at this point, I was making it the focal point, which I ended up changing because having everything out of focus while this was the clearest thing was like kind of weird looking. I wish I could have made it the focal point of the image, which I guess I could have, but I just thought ultimately I went with the vase that I'm going to add here. I made that the focal point. I feel like it just balanced it out more. But yeah, this is what gave me my color scheme of, okay, I'll do white and purple, which purple is my favorite color. So I was like, okay, that works really nicely. I really like that. So here's the first high quality render I did. I went with the lighter wood on the stairs, and I added patterns to the pillows, and then I threw in that vase I was talking about and some clutter under here. And I added a little bit of purple here too. It's not really noticeable, but I think it does lend to the color scheme a bit. And then I added purple to the dining set, which again I didn't keep. But yeah, I wanted to do a nice render. It's important to do nice renders every so often, because there are certain things you won't catch until you do them. Especially things you won't catch until you're doing your final render and you realize, like, for example, in the reflection of this vase, you could see I obviously didn't model beyond the point that the viewer sees. So you could see like the skybox, you can see the gobo hanging in the sky, which is like casting shadows on everything. So I had to go in post-processing and edit that out. But yeah, there are definitely things that you won't catch until you do a high quality render. So yeah, I think this was like the day after Thanksgiving, and we were celebrating with my girlfriend's family. So I just let it render for like 2 hours because I wasn't going to be on my computer. This really does make you feel better about the scene because you want to see what it looks like when it's all nice and pretty, not when it's, low quality, all stretched out and gross. So now we're back to the gross quality, but I ended up buying a pack of books. I spent like a good hour looking for like nice books, and I couldn't find anything. And then I could make my own, but it's like I don't want to sit here for 3 days doing that. So I'll just give the 20, $30 or whatever to get. I think it's like 300 or 400 books that we'll just use for the rest of my life. That just really speeds up the process, because this was like an hour lost looking for a lot of nice quality books. You can find some low poly ones, but like they're just really not usable in this kind of scene. So ultimately, I did have to edit these. You can kind of see in this image, like they all have the same publisher, like I don't know what it's called, publisher stamp or whatever on the side here. And so I had to edit that out because it's not that I didn't want like that credit to be given. Like there was nothing saying I couldn't edit them as well, but like it just looked bad. Like it looked jarring seeing a line of books all with the same publisher stamp on them. It's like that just let you know it was fake. Not like this image is like you would really mistake it for a real image, but yeah, it was just weird looking having like the same image on all the books. So I just had to, not all of them, but a lot of them. So I just had to go and get those out. I added in these tulips I didn't make. I got off of Blend Swap just because I was like, I'll add in some purple plant or something. I ended up making my own dining set because I didn't really like anything else finding. So I just put together my own based on some reference images. Other than that, I don't think anything else really changed. I moved up this table and I put some purple trim. It's actually 2 tables now. I just pushed them together. I also added an image by the same friend, Nicole Langle. Just a nice little photograph there. I just went on her Facebook, and she's always taking pictures, so I just grabbed something I thought looked nice. I added in this particle grass effect, but I then moved up the table before I rendered, so I didn't realize that it's missing from this whole chunk, so I had to fix that later. I think I started... I think there's a particle effect on here at this point on the carpet, and I added some purple to the feet of this couch just to go with the color scheme a bit. So I threw in from Archimesh a window pane, and I kind of stretched it out to here, and I really think it looks a lot nicer than the original. Just the shadows it casts, and it's just more interesting to look at. And obviously, it just looks more real than these thin, black rectangles, I guess. I also started working out the inside of the second room. I added a little patio area, which you can't see that well, but I added a chimney as well. I think at this point I was basically done inside. So yeah, I wanted to start putting a few things in this other part of the building just so it wasn't a block, Here's a larger image, and for whatever reason, this glass was like you couldn't see into this other building. So I ultimately had to change this glass because it was just showing white when it should be purple inside. And I think like you can see the couch in there, but you can't see the end of you can't see the far end of it, which I'm not really sure why it was doing that. So ultimately I had to change the glass. I added in some smoke in this chimney. I threw in a bookshelf and a TV and then a patio set, which I didn't make the patio set. I also tried like putting in these little shelves on the wall, which I guess I should have messed around more with. But the weird thing to me was all the images are like facing straight out, which is how it would be in real life. And you can't see them from this angle. Even at like a larger render, you can't really zoom. You can't see what it is when you zoom in. And I could move the image, like this one is pointed towards the camera, and I could do that with these so you could see them, but it's like, it wouldn't make any sense. It's like, why would all the pictures be pointing at the back of the room? So I scrapped them in the final image. I threw in this little coffee cup just for a little bit more clutter. And then, yeah, here's the final image again. So again, there are some things I'm unhappy about, but I just made this to learn, and I feel like I definitely accomplished that. I learned a lot. But I feel like the biggest point I learned, and the point of this video, is that you shouldn't really give up on something right away. Like I'm really glad that I finished this, and I am happy with how it turned out, and it's something I'm proud of. And if I just went back and did simple things that are easy to finish in a day, then I wouldn't have learned anything. So yeah, that's the video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll try and answer anything I can. I'll definitely be doing this going forward, like recording the progress of my images. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something.